More clarification about the ego as a piece of clothing. Here's what I got today. At the core of cockiness and arrogance is fear. When the ego takes over and becomes the largest object in the room, it is propelled larger by the fear of it not being all that it says it is, or not as grand as the others around. When you see ego in play like that, there's an imbalance between the soul and said ego. Understand it for what it is, and also understand the true meaning of your saying, pride goeth before the fall. That saying isn't referencing loving yourself or being boldly who you are. It's about ego. And ego is like a balloon. The bigger it blows up, the thinner the skin is, and the slightest bump can shatter it. But even those with large egos still have a soul that is experiencing this experience. There's always a chance for redemption. And by redemption, we mean bringing the balance between the soul and the ego. In dealing with those with larger egos, the quieter argument always wins. The more gentle the behavior, the more calm the spirit. The more the ego that is inflated will start to freak out, for the soul behind it knows when faced with love, calmness, grace, and compassion, that those traits are the same traits that are being called from itself, which amplifies the fear of that ego that it is wrong. As a general rule, instead of deflating and striking balance, it inflates, which ultimately leads to the popping of the balloon. Water always wears away stone. Patience, love, compassion are the keys to the ultimate balancing of the soul in question. It's not easy. It will feel like, from your perspective, that you don't get to play by the same rules. And from the egoic perspective, this is true. But the rules you would play by are the rules of the soul and not the rules of the ego. It's the ego that would say to you, you are weak by demonstrating those behaviors. You're not fighting fire with fire. And we would ask you, why would you want to fight fire with fire when you have an endless supply of water at your disposal? And the analogy doesn't quite hold, because fighting fire with fire is burning up the resources of the fire in advance of the fire so it burns itself out. Where the ego is involved, you can never burn up the resources ahead of it, for it's self-fueled. The lesson of love is not new on your planet. It's been spoken by many masters before because it is the way of source energy. The confusion comes by thinking love is the same thing as that connection one feels when they see someone across a crowded room. That's an aspect of love, but it's not the love that we're talking about. Love is a vibration. It's a frequency field that is the frequency of creation. When you're in that frequency, it's not possible to see any other being as anything but a part of yourself. That's where the similarity between attraction and love comes. Attraction is a lower vibration of love. When you're called to love your neighbor as yourself, the call is to be in a vibration where you see them as not separate or different from you. This requires looking past the ego to see the soul. We are speaking of the souls being united. Egos are separate by design. Look around you today. Understand that every person you see, in fact, everything you see, is a part of the power that created your world, a piece of source energy. When you understand the other avatars walking around as you, with a different shirt on, and by shirt we mean ego, you might be able to break through the barrier to understanding you are all one. Now look at your own wardrobe. Sometimes you have a dress shirt or dresses or crop tops or tank tops or flip-flops or dress shoes or tennis shoes. The variety of clothing you have or have available to you is unlimited. The same is true of personalities. See the ego as an article of clothing. Are you threatened by an article of clothing? No, they simply are. Are you threatened by others' articles of clothing? No, they simply are. Now, you might not agree with their choices, but they're no threat to you. When you understand and remember that you are eternal and that you cannot be destroyed, you're better able to navigate these waters. The reason why you're threatened by others' ego is because they have the power over life and death of you in your mind. They hold no such true power. Only that perceived power in this illusion, in this incarnation. We've said it before. See this as the game it is. You cannot be destroyed. Your clothing can be rent and torn, most certainly, but your clothing is not you. Sit with that understanding. You are not your personality. Now, your society has told you that you are and have labeled you as such and continue to label you as such. But your personality is no different than your shirt. Who's the one putting on your shirt? That's the eternal you. Now, next time you see a loud shirt, will it bother you or simply be not your preference? Can you still talk to the person in the loud shirt even if you dislike it? Of course you can, for it's just a shirt. When you start understanding that the personalities are just clothing and the person behind them is a part of source energy, the same source as you, it will change how you interact with them. When it changes how you interact with them, it will change how they interact with you. Now, not in every case, or sometimes the ego is so incredibly large, but for the majority of people, that is true. When you create relationships, create them heart to heart, soul to soul, person to person. That is the focus. And those relationships start as a relationship of the ego. But as they evolve, an understanding is reached. A soul connection is made. Things are changing on your timeline. Know that is true. Trust the process. Work on your stuff. Don't worry about other stuff. What are you being called to do? How are you being called to see past the ego to the heart and soul, to the real you? We will let you sit with that for this day. And remember, beloved, that we are always here. We are just a thought away. We are complete.